We're here with Alina, the co-founder and co-CEO of Chili Piper. Alina, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're very busy and you have a lot of better things to do than talking to me. So I don't know why you decided to spend time here with me, but I'm really grateful. And
Not accurate. Like when before school, I did my nails, so as you can see, that
you made it look
kind of thing that I did.
wow. I feel honored. I feel honored. A mini intro, just in case you need it, but I don't think you do. Alina is the co-founder and co-CEO at Chili Piper. She and her husband started the company in 2016. It's a B2B SaaS company. They're a lead routing and scheduling software. They were initially bootstrapped and then later decided to raise some money. I think you guys are around 250 people, according to your LinkedIn company page. You're around 45 million ARR, I think, according to your SaaS open keynote. And you've been very prolific on LinkedIn and founder-led marketing, which is why I wanted to have you on, because I think you're doing an incredible job there. And so, yeah.
The status I'm most proud of is the fact that we're in 40 countries. That's my flex.
The team, you mean? The team is in 40?
The team.
And you're not in, what was it, in Chile, New York or something?
Oh, yeah.
So it's the April Fool's joke.
For April Fools, we said that everybody has to move to Chile, New York. We're getting to a working person. I thought it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. It was great. Cool. We'll get rolling. I want to dive into all things kind of founder-led marketing, LinkedIn, go-to-market with Alina. I wanted to start this out, Alina, by sharing a story, because from just talking to a couple people and reading some comments, I feel like it kind of represents the type of person that you are. I met Alina 2 months ago for the first and only time in Austin at SaaS Open. And I want to tell this story because it shows how generous of a person she is. And I saw a LinkedIn post the day before I arrived about, I think it was Guy, I forgot his last name, that they were hosting like some poker night. And so I commented on it and was like, are there any spots left? Because I love poker. And then Alina commented on my comment saying, are you in town? And I was like, yeah, I'm in Austin for the conference. And then she sent me a DM, even though it wasn't her post. And then she sent me a DM, said, meet us at 7 p.m. at this address. I thought it was a poker event. I show up there. It's a bar. It's basically their private little pre-drink event that Alina kind of threw together. Sully James shows up, CEO of Cognism. Adam Robbins shows up, the CEO of retention.com. And like, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I'm so unqualified to be part of this group. And all these SaaS founders probably think, what is this like social media guy doing here? And Alina just won great conversation, asked questions, and just introduced me to people. And we're like, hey, have you met Finn? And he does like LinkedIn and reflecting back on the event afterwards, I noticed how special that was because I met a lot of people. And that really stood out, how like giving and generous and kind of open and not respecting anything in return type of person you were. And after talking to some people, it kind of seemed to me that that's actually who you are. So I just wanted to give that props here, and that it really meant a lot to me. And that was really cool, especially as someone running a big company and being a big name in this space. You know, you could have acted very differently. And so that's cool.
That story means a lot to me, Finn, because I do get a lot of joy of introducing people to one another so that they can benefit from that knowledge. And it's not always that the CEOs need to meet with other CEOs or CMOs with other CMOs. The most beautiful relationships happen when you meet people that are very different than you. Yeah. That's when you learn the most. And my hope is that by making these introductions, then all sorts of creative things happen afterwards.
Love it. That's amazing. My first question to you is, because it's kind of close to something that I'm dealing with, is how do you run a company with your husband and not divorce? Because I have my wife joined me a couple months ago with Project 33, and I would say it's going good, but it's a different dynamic. So I'm curious to hear some, I don't know, takeaways or lessons for you on how to make that work. Or maybe it just comes easy to you guys.
In our case, it's easy because we're both obsessed with the same things. And when you have both the same kind of obsession, it's so easy. It feels like you get to play all the time. That's what it feels like. It feels like play. We get to brainstorm about things that we're passionate about, like GTM motion and campaigns and hiring processes. All those things we both love, and we're both very different. So how we approach things, he's very theoretical, we are very practical. And as a result, everything that he says, I think it's amazing. And everything that I say, he thinks I'm amazing. So it feels like we get to play with people we admire. It's my dream come true. I don't recommend it for majority of people, but because of these two reasons, for us, it really works.
Did you know that upfront when you started it?
Yeah, we knew each other from work before we fell in love. So we saw each other at work and admired one another.
How do you make it feel like play? Because you have a lot of responsibilities. You have a lot of people on payroll. You have investors breathing down your neck. Do you say that it feels like play, or do you actually mean that?
I would not do this if it would not feel like play. If it would just feel the pressure from my investors and from my responsibility, I would quit in an instant, because I'm not the kind of person that's motivated by money. I'm the kind of person that gets motivated by the sheer problem to solve. And if I would feel the stress from it, I would just not I would not have capacity to do the work. The reason why it feels to me like play is because the most fulfilling for me personally, but it's not doesn't happen for everybody, but for me, the most fulfilling thing is to solve really hard problems. And building a company that's of this size is really hard. And I get very motivated by the sheer complexity of it. And I'm already thinking far in advance. I'm thinking, okay, now how do I get to 200 million? How do I expand in Asia? And all these things are just very complicated puzzle. And yes, there are things that are stressful, and I put them in boxes and I access those boxes when I need to. But the actual work that needs to be done is a lot of fun.
How do you keep that when things are not going maybe as great? Like, I notice that for myself sometimes when, I don't know, you make mistakes, you fuck up, and you get that email from a customer who's like, man, you kind of fucked up there. And like, I take that so personally, and I feel shitty for like 2 days. And I don't know, maybe that's good because it makes me really try to solve that problem. But at the same time, I try to zoom out and be like, how do you keep that mindset? Like, it's so hard.
Well, at this stage, I've got so many of those emails.
Yeah.
And I got so many of those board meetings as well, where an investor is not happy about something or customer is not happy about something. It happens all the time. But what happens is that the more you go through the emotions of it, the better you become at dealing with it. In my case, whenever that happens, to me, it's a beautiful signal that I need to act, that something needs to happen to change so that that comment no longer gets sent. So whenever I get the gift of feedback that this is not right, I know that I can improve and I can get better. And all the little signals, you get 1,000 little signals, you get 1,000 times better.
So you take it as feedback rather than criticism almost.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm very, very grateful when I receive that feedback. Very grateful.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. It does seem like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've been taking it up a notch on your LinkedIn. I don't know, maybe I've just not paid attention previously, but it feels like you're really out there. You put a lot of stuff out it. I see you in the comments. I see you on other people's things. I see you on events. Is that a conscious decision you made recently, or has that always been kind of like that?
And no, it's not been like that at all before. If you'd have met me 2-3 years ago, I was complete opposite, like very typical introvert engineering persona. Avoid eye contact, avoid all humors, at all cost, hide in a cave. Humans are complicated. Computers easy to manage. Actually, so I started Chili Piper 8 years ago. So 6 years of my journey, I was on introvert territory. And I would tell my marketing team, do not put me on stage. Do not have me speak to any journalist. I do not post anything on social media. I do not want spotlight attention. I do not need attention of any kind. Actually, it would have terrified me. It would terrify me. So I wouldn't have thought that I would have changed. I would have not thought that I would come to you today on a live event and tell you that things are different. I would have never imagined that. But things have changed. And it did happen because of something that happened in 2022. The war in Ukraine had started. It was very close to my home country. It was at the border. And I would see all this news on my phone. especially the ones that were breaking my heart because I'm a mother too.
Yeah.
Seeing mothers with babies fleeing their homes, terrified that there were bombs up on their roof. And that was very close to home. And I felt very compelled to help, very, very compelled to help. So I started deploying my voice to help those mothers. It was at a time when the government was not helping, the UN hadn't helped yet. People didn't know what to do at the borders. They were just getting hundreds of thousands of children and mothers. And somehow I managed to create a Google Doc with instructions. I started to fundraise. I put $1 million to use for blankets and diapers and getting shelter in place. And I said, darn, I can use my voice to help. This is not about the spotlight. This is about helping. And after that, we helped in other causes as well in Afghanistan. And I've never looked back ever since.
So was the mindset shift that you realized it's not about posting on social media or doing all this stuff? It's not about you and promoting yourself. It's about what you can do with it. And it's a tool and you can drive good with it. And once you realize that, you were fine with it?
Then I realized that I can use my voice, yes. All of a sudden, my voice appeared. I don't fully understand precisely how the process worked and how all of a sudden I had a voice and I was no longer afraid to use it. But the event has such magnitude for me and then for where I grew up that I was finally capable to no longer hide.
Wow. And was that on LinkedIn or where did you initially go?
Initially, I just started a Google Doc to help my employees with which points at the border to cross, where are the longest lines, which shelters they could go after, which lawyers they could talk for about getting to which places. But Google Doc turned into 89 pages, used on all possible social media channels. Everybody was adding more information. Eventually got on CNN, on Bloomberg, on many TV stations, and people were using it to get shelter in place. So it was on all channels, but not on LinkedIn.
Wow. And so I feel like one of your strengths that I feel like I sense on your LinkedIn is because you don't need or crave the attention, you're actually very raw and real and authentic. Like you don't come across as being a polished persona. Like sometimes you're like tipping things out while you're sitting somewhere and there's like all kinds of typos in there. And it feels like this is really like Alina typed in on her phone right now and not really caring if it's like not polished or perfect. So I don't know, that's just a comment there that I feel like that actually plays into your strength, that you don't need it or want it or crave it.
I would actually be afraid if I would be polished. If I would have, let's say, a copywriter that would take my thoughts and edit them to post them, or I would use more Grammarly to create a better sentence, or ChatGPT. I would actually be afraid of it. And there are two reasons why I would not want to do that. One, if you meet me in person and I'm very different than the person that shows up on LinkedIn, then there's a dissonance and then there's lack of trust. So I just don't want to portray myself as something I'm not. And second, there's this pressure and this fear that if you go on social media, you have to be perfect and that people should be perfect. And because of this idea of perfection, we have a lot of internal fear and violence towards ourselves. And I want to show that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to make spelling mistakes. It's okay to have flawed thoughts at times because we all do. I've yet to meet a perfect person. I've yet to meet. If you find he and his best works, I love them, but it just doesn't exist. A perfect person doesn't exist.
About what? Yeah. So from your perspective as a CEO, why are you sure you have a voice and you can use it? Why are you right now posting on LinkedIn? Because obviously, I mean, you're running almost a $50 million company, ARR company. There's a million things you could be spending your time on and doing. Why do you decide to allocate some time to putting out content and sharing your thoughts on LinkedIn?
I'll give you a bit of background on how I'm thinking about the content and why I'm doing it. I grew up in a communist environment in Romania from a very poor upbringing. My grandmother did not have electricity. Her toilet was a hole in the ground. And I had to start working since I was 8 to be able to get education, to pay for my education. And many times I was starving. Many times I had literally no idea how I'm going to do my homework or what I'm going to do my homework because I didn't even have notebooks. So I'm saying that because when I arrived here in US and I saw that you can get employed by a company that can pay you a lot of money and you can grow within the corporate structure to an extent that I could have never imagined before. To me, it felt like magic. It literally felt like magic that you can get paid so much. So I felt super lucky that I was able to get promoted from an intern to an SVP very, very fast. And I felt that I can learn a lot and I can teach others to do the same. They could benefit from this magical thing that happen in corporations as well. And then similarly, I built Chili Piper and I also felt it was like magic in US. I would have never been able to do that in Romania. I could have never built a company like that. And it all happens because there are all sorts of systems in place in America that allow you to benefit from the economical wealth that's around. So my hope was that the lessons that I can learn, I can share with others because I didn't want others to be in the shoes that I was before I got here. So I was looking at the content as a form of giving back the things that I've learned. And the more I did that, the more feedback I would get that it's helpful, that other people are benefiting from it. So I got a lot of encouragement along the way, a lot of people motivating me to continue. Right now, I spend close to 30 minutes a day. There are still a lot of benefits that I get myself as well. I learn how to write better. I learn how to think better because when you write better, you think better as well. And even more important, I get feedback on what's helping and what's not helping and refinements in my ideas and in my strategies. So I'm getting to be a better leader.
Wow. So it started as not really like a marketing or demand gen thing at all. It really started as, I want to give away my knowledge to maybe help some people and give back. And that sounds like it's still the main motivation. Do you feel like it helps with Chili Piper or growing the company at all? Besides, obviously, you're refining your thinking, you're becoming a better writer or communicator, which always has its downstream effect. Like, do you feel like it has an impact on Chili Piper, or you don't even pay attention or care because it's about something else?
So I do post occasionally about things that we do at Chili Piper as well. If we have like a big launch, I will write about it. Or if we have some campaign of some kind, I will write about it. I feel that within the community, if you are continue to give and give and give, you are allowed to 1 in 100 times ask for a favor as well. It always feels strange because as a founder, it always feels strange to say, my product is amazing, my product is great, come check it out, because you're always biased. But my hope is that if I'm helpful to others, like I can have a plug sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be a plug, right? But I feel like it's so different to, I feel like, most people's approach to social. And maybe that's, again, another reason why you're so refreshing and real, because you're not trying to, drive pipeline and, pitch your product. It's just really about giving back. So why LinkedIn though? Or are you also on Twitter and Instagram? I don't know. I don't follow you there. Maybe you are active on there. Why did you end up being on LinkedIn if that's the one that you're...
I'm finding that I'm learning most on LinkedIn. Instagram is just not the right environment for work conversations. It revolves around physical appearance and travel mostly. At least that's what my...
Your fingernails?
Did my nails, yeah. So from a work perspective, I feel like I learn less there. I still get inspired by some of the things that I see there, marketing. So I do spend some time there. On Twitter, there are some founders that are posting things that are helpful to me. But since Twitter became X, I find that there's a lot of noise in that, people just posting just to get attention or just to be contrarian. And it feels very heavy and somewhat negative, and I find that it just puts me in a bad mood, so I just avoid it.
Right. I love it. Barbara, thank you for joining. I see you just joined. Do you have any questions for Alina or anything that you wanted to hear her speak to that made you join this Zoom?
Yeah, sorry, was on customer facing call, so I had to join a little bit late. Just super curious about kind of, how you caught that kind of viral attention. We're getting ready to pivot towards, founder-led marketing and sales for Poly. And I know I missed the first, portion of this, so I'm sure you've spoken to it. But, was there like a moment, I guess, in terms of your approach to becoming really active on LinkedIn and what you saw working for you? Or was this just really organic and grassroots over time?
So I actually started posting actively on LinkedIn only a year ago, but I have started feeling a lot more comfortable with, in general, with the spotlight about 2 years ago. Just before that, I would have never thought of touching or even talking to journalists or being on TV or being on stage. It would terrify me. I only got the courage when I felt that I can actually impact positive change. And I talked to Finn about that earlier. When the Ukraine war started, that's when I had the most energy to actually and the courage to use my voice.
And do you still get nervous? I think you made a post about that. Is it more like you have a good reason to do it, but you still would rather not? Or do you actually started enjoying it, whether it's like sharing content or going on stage or doing events or stuff like that?
No, I have fun on it. On stage, I used to equate it to being on stage with death. So I've graduated from that. I've graduated from fear of death to having fun. I still get nervous. I don't get all devoid of fears when I get on the stage. For instance, the last one I did in Sweden, actually, I had all the wrong things happen just before. I had forgotten to pack the right shoes. I hadn't brought in my charger to do my hair. My hair looked a mess. My shoes looked like they didn't belong. So I decided to just take my shoes off. I put my hair in a ponytail, and I was not as prepared as I wish I was on my slides, but I felt that I knew my subject because I'm the subject. So I just went barefooted with a ponytail, and I had a captive audience of 1,200 people, and I had a lot of fun with it.
That's amazing. That's very cool. I have a couple questions that I collected beforehand from some people who commented on the post. Alina Konstantin asked, how does Alina plan her daily content creation? Does she write spontaneously or does she use a social media calendar?
I don't have a calendar, but I do have a block after I put my kids to sleep. If there's anything that pops in my head that was interesting throughout the day, I write it down and then I post it the second day. So if you see me not post in a particular day, means that had fallen asleep next to my babies.
How does that happen? 50% of the time?
About, yeah. So it's literally at night I reflect through what has happened through the day, what I learned, what can I share back. It's very spontaneous.
And then it's just, you don't really have a process, just literally writing it down, stream of consciousness type of thing.
Mm-hmm. No process.
Yeah, love it. And then next day you kind of look at it, I guess, one more time and decide were those late night thoughts safe for work or, are they okay to be put out on LinkedIn in that format? Were you lucid enough?
I don't have any topic that I don't talk about. So there's no
not safe for work for you. Okay.
I can talk about anything. Politics, religion, anything.
So I guess that also answered her next question, which was, do you have content pillars or do you think about content pillars in any way?
The only strategy that I was telling you about earlier is that if I think that the content would have been useful for myself, like a few years back, I would have learned something from it, then I post it. If the content would have not been useful for myself, then I would not post it.
Interesting. So your ICP or your content avatar is like your younger self. That's cool. And then Angela Dunn asks, I saw one of her posts that she wants AI to do her dishes so that she can concentrate on her writing. Why did you say that? I guess kind of, your writing process and why in this world of AI where so many people leverage AI for writing, you seem to kind of go the opposite direction.
We were talking about how people aim to be perfect, but humans that are perfect don't exist. Well, one of my imperfections, if you want to call it, is that I hate cooking and I hate cleaning. And I've always hated cooking and cleaning ever since I can remember. Actually, when I was 7, I told my mom I would marry 7 men because I need one to do the cooking, one to do the cleaning, one to do. Then I had the job for each one of my husbands.
That's badass.
And because I don't enjoy it, I rather that AI takes care of things that I don't enjoy. Whereas writing helps me refine my thinking, helps me be a better leader. I don't know. Maybe I should just employ AI to teach me to dishes and enjoy it. But right now, that doesn't seem to happen. I still hate it.
Yeah. And I mean, you said that you don't want AI or a ghostwriter to touch your content because you want it to fully feel like you, even if it's imperfect.
Right.
What other things would you never let AI automate for you?
Right now, we don't send any messages that are written by AI, for instance, from our company, and pretend that they're written by a human. Like for instance, an SDR outreach or an account executive outreach or an
Interesting.
And the reason for it is because, as I told you earlier, I think it breaks trust if the writing doesn't match the persona that you're going to talk to afterwards. Like maybe you're going to have a call with the other SDR, maybe you're going to have an account executive discussion, and the two people are completely different that have conversations with you. Then it breaks trust. If we're ever going to do that, if we're going to have things written by AI, is going to be big involved. This message has been generated by AI. You were talking to an AI agent. This is not a human.
Oh.
I don't think people should be tricked into believing that they're talking to humans when they're not.
Even, I guess that then also applies to like, well, I guess for a chatbot, you can say it like a little thing on your website or something where people can ask questions. I guess you can just say that this is a bot and people know.
It's different when you get aids from a copilot, right? It's very different when, for instance, you're doing support and there's a copilot that suggests that this is how you solve the problem, and then you copy a link to the article that solves your problem. It's very different in copilot mode. But letting the AI just have the conversations and tricking people into thinking that they have a conversation with a human, that's definitely not the future I want to live in.
That's cool. Anything in your personal life you would never let AI automate besides cooking? Or cooking you would automate? What would you like never have it touch?
I don't know. I'm not
Putting your kids to sleep? Let AI do that or no?
It's not for goodness. For so nice to go around. Oh, why would I want to do that?
Yeah. Our little one has fever today, so she's like so cuddly. She doesn't want to do anything, just like sit on your lap and lean back into you. So, there's downsides and upsides to your children being sick.
How old is your little one?
15 months.
Oh my goodness, she still smells like a baby. I know.
Yeah, it's the best smell. It's the best smell. I have David Baum asks, and this is a little going into a different direction, but I like it. Why did you decide to go from bootstrapped to raising money?
So initially when we started Bootstrapped, it's really term for nobody gives you money. And there are people who will do it on purpose and they think that they don't want to report to anybody and that's bad. There are all sorts of ill things that happen with it. I did not have that thought. I didn't think that being venture capital backed, there's something wrong with it. Nobody believed in us. Nobody wanted to give us cash. So we just continued on a happy way to be profitable. And we did that until we got to 3 million. Eventually, the market showed that there was massive demand for what we were building, and VCs came to terms to understand it. So we got an offer that we couldn't refuse, and we benefited from having both mindsets. I love being bootstrapped, and I love having the infusion of cash as well. Now I'm probably operating in the middle. We're a lot more mindful of efficiencies and of cash spend, which I think is very healthy.
Were you able to keep that bootstrap mindset when the whole bubble, money was very generously flowing at around like 2021, beginning of 2022, or did you get sidetracked too?
It was amazing that period. I couldn't believe my luck. We managed to do secondary, so we managed to sell a good amount of options. It really felt like having an exit. In our case, it felt like a beautiful exit. I would have never had the chance to experience that. And I think it's really hard for entrepreneurs who don't, because you work really, really long hours and not having that kind of symbol of you've made it. It's really hard. Even if on paper you're valued at X, the reality is that you're not valued at X. You don't have a financial transaction that shows that it's the reality of it. So I'm really grateful that it happened. I'm also grateful that we managed, that our board was okay for us to put money in a foundation and help with the non-violence goals that I have. So I felt super lucky and I'm super grateful that it happened. Obviously, it was not right. We were valued at crazy valuations at almost 30x that we got at that time. So it was banana and it was not realistic. The market is coming to terms, but it was a fun time for a lot of us.
Would you say that given that you had this little exit or maybe not so little exit, how has your relationship to the company or growing the company changed?
So before I had that exit, I would have this constant fear in the back of my mind of running out of cash. And when you have that fear in the back of your head, even if you don't act on it, it's quite detrimental to your efficiency because you spend spinning cycles on things that you don't need to. So ever since we got that exit, I've never worked harder. As a result, I've never been more efficient.
Wow.
And I'm much more joyful too. And as a result, I'm able to impact positively the bottom line.
Why did you and your husband decide to co-found in 2016? It seems like you were kind of on a track of a pretty successful corporate career. Why that decision then?
So my goal was actually to become the CEO of a large company. I didn't know that I am capable of creating the company from scratch. My husband hadn't done that before. He was a serial entrepreneur. His strengths were operations and legalities and go-to-market, whereas my strength was at that time product and engineering. And he kept insisting for the entirety of our marriage that we should do something together. We should do something together. And we've been together a long time, since 2007. So it's been in the back of my mind, but eventually he managed to convince me at the right time when I was ready.
What made you ready?
I wasn't happy with what I was experiencing working for others. I felt that there's a better way to create organizations, a better way to create profits. I was not a happy employee. Even though I was doing my best work and I was getting results and I was getting paid to levels I could have never imagined before. I was not a happy employee.
What are some of those ways that you felt like should be done differently or better?
So for instance, I felt trapped. I love traveling. I love just being able to do my work whenever I want. I feel that there's so many beautiful places in the world that I want to visit, and having just 1 week a year to be able to travel felt so wrong. Being in the office for no reason felt so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my ideas came in the weekend, like what was the purpose of being in the office? I couldn't understand it. I felt trapped at my desk. That's very specific for me. And I love nature. I can't stand having cement all around me at all times. I feel like we're all social creatures that we want to explore. We want to be out. We want to be with our families at times. And sometimes it's not at 6 p.m. Sometimes it's at 12 because that's when our children need us. Like you have now, your baby with a fever, you just want to cuddle it, like in between your meetings. I feel it creates a coldness inside of us. The office environment creates a coldness in us as humans. And I was becoming one cold, isolated person. I didn't like who I was becoming.
Do you feel like we've arrived at the future right now with kind of hybrid models where you guys have an office that people can come to, but I'm assuming they can also decide to stay home? Or do you feel like we're still a way to go and there's like still a next unlock that we haven't?
So actually a lot of companies are going back to the office because many entrepreneurs are finding it hard to motivate their employees. They think that by bringing them back to the office, the productivity will go up. I can imagine that it works for some, like that's how they know how to create the culture. But I don't think it's the only thing. I don't think that just going back to remote is what helps us thrive at work. I think there's a lot more to that. So for instance, I never felt comfortable operating in the company that I worked for because things were not transparent. I never got the full truth from my bosses or from my boss's boss. I never had all the information that I needed to do my job. And I never understood decision-making either because that was not transparent also. So my hope is that I can create that at Chili Piper and we do all our numbers are transparent, all our decisions are transparent. Anybody can make a decision, anybody can impact something, which makes you a lot more equipped to have the right skill sets to thrive in your role. You learn a lot much faster if you're getting exposed to how departments make decisions that are adjacent to you or how your bosses make decisions, and everything gets documented and you get to have an opinion on it. And yes, then there's tension when you put everything on paper and when you see like all the possible outcomes of something, even like salary band, things like that. But
so everyone at Chili Piper knows the salary of everyone else?
we haven't got to that point yet, but we do have the salaries and bands available for the department so that they can see where they can grow by zones. And because we're in 40 countries, it gets very complex. It's not perfect by any means. It's not perfect. I think that salaries in general are never perfect, the way housing prices are never quite perfect. But it is the system that we're given, and we try to do our best in it.
So it sounds like you actually implemented a lot of those things that you weren't happy with in your corporate career. What were maybe some things that the naive you who wasn't the CEO of their own company thought this is how to do things, but now that you're actually in those shoes, you realize, no, I was just naive and you can't do this? Were there any things that you actually ran into like, okay, no, this was just utopian?
Yes, I thought that CEOs are all-knowing and all perfect. And in general, they're ruthless in their decision-making and they don't really care about people, especially because I was getting fired. I got fired twice also. And I said, but why do they fire these good people? Me? Don't they know any better? And they're really perfect. And now that I'm in this role, I'm realizing that you can only build a great company if you build great system and you bring great people on board, because it's not one person. It's never one person. It's not one single person in any department. You need to have a team that works together, and bringing teams together to work towards a mission and to work to similar goals together. It's really, really hard. It's really, really hard.
Well, you personally, when you think, so you had that mini exit, it allowed you to have some breathing room and actually work even harder and be more motivated. You have your, let's say, given back type of activity where you share content about what you're learning. Where do you see your evolution going? Like, do you think about having a massive exit at some point and then donating it all, or, keep Chili Piper running while spending time on what's like in it for you for the next year, 10 years, let's say? How you think about that?
So very early in my career, I think around 25 or so, I realized that money was not a motivator for me, because at a certain level, you have everything that you need. At a certain level, as long as you can buy the food that you really want and you have a roof over your head and you have internet, you're good.
Yeah.
At least that was the case for me. I didn't feel motivated by cash. And having that as a motivator is never ending. Like, I have friends now who are in the billionaire status, and I can see that if you have cash as a focus, you can get really miserable because there's always someone who's doing better than you. So for me, the joy and the pleasure comes from solving really hard puzzles, like building a company of this size. I could have never imagined, I could have never dreamed, and it's so fun to be able to do that. I think before we started recording, I was telling you that I can't imagine how the path looks like for 200 million after that, and then expanding to Asia. So for me, the joy definitely comes from the journey and the complexity of the puzzle. If in the process I managed to create a company where people thrive and have the most fun, that for me is extremely rewarding as well. If we happen to help our ecosystem around us with the causes that are meaningful to me, then I'm extremely happy. It's hard to do all the things at once, especially since I have 2 little ones and I want to be a good mother to them as well. So I'll have to see how it all works together, but figuring out seems like a worthy adventure.
What do you think someone like me, meaning a man, should know about what it's like as a woman in business, or a woman in SaaS, or a woman CEO? I know you did a post recently on LinkedIn about some stuff here, but what perspectives would you like both maybe men to know about that don't seem obvious to them, and then other women who are maybe wanna do a career push, and give them a little bit heads up of what's ahead of them?
So I'll give you a couple interesting things that I discovered. One of them is that evolutionary women are made to carry humans inside of them. And as a result, there's a lot of pressure from society to do that. Some of them might not want to. those that do not want to have babies get the pressure of, oh, you're working, and you're not making babies. They feel the pressure from their mothers, from their grandmothers, from their aunts. And that feels really, really hard to deal with because they feel like they're sacrificing something, or they're not good enough, or they're not fulfilling their purpose, their legacy, etc. And that's like a burden that's very hard to carry. If you are having children, the message that you're getting is that, oh, you're at work, you're not caring for your children, you're not there for them at all times, and other people are raising your children. How dare you? Why are you not there present for you? So that's another guilt and burden that they feel. There's another evolutionary thing that happens with women that I observe that is less the case with men. Obviously, I'm generalizing a bit because men are different, women are different, but we're also wired in a way that allows us to nurture the children that we bring to life. And as a result, we feel like nurturing everybody around us, making sure that everybody's okay, the grandma is okay, the mother is okay, the children are okay, the husband is okay. We have this tendency to try to please people. And when you have this wiring to try to do that, oftentimes, especially in business, you're not going to manage to do it. Oftentimes, you might have to fire people. Oftentimes, you might have to say things that are going to be upsetting. And that feels contrary to your nature. It feels contrary. And because you don't see many women around you, you assume that there's something wrong with you. You're wired differently, so you shouldn't be here. So you doubt yourself all the time. So then be caring for others. Should I not be here because I care too deeply about not making people upset? And as a result, I make the wrong business decisions. So there's just a lot of like inner pressure and inner critic that happens at all moments in time, at least with the one that I've been working with and that I've been talking to recently. Those are some of the themes that I see a lot.
Do you feel like this idea that, you want to be nurturing, but then when you're running a company, you can't just always be like that. You need to maybe fire people or have difficult conversations. Is that a thing that, women just have to overcome in a sense? Or is that the expectation just because mostly it's men in those roles and we've kind of set up the work environment in a way that it doesn't allow for you to be nurturing or always nurturing or really be nurturing because it's not built for you? And is there a different way to architecture, let's say, a work environment where you can fully embrace that?
It's really hard to create a system that's perfect, especially in the US where the government provides shit for families. That literally the health coverage doesn't exist if you don't have a job. Literally, if you're your parent and you don't have a job, you don't have healthcare for your children, and that's scary. You don't have time to even give birth. You don't have time for anything. So the government in America is really fucked up, and as a result, the entrepreneur has to pick up on it. And as soon as the entrepreneur tries to pick up, they can make a profit, and then the investors are all over you, that your efficiencies are not there, that your margins are not there, that your growth is not there. So making it all work like a caring environment is really, really hard. I think that in my husband and I's case is that he has a very strong efficiency mindset, and I have a very nurturing mindset. So together we can make better decisions in which we try to find an equilibrium. By no means is a perfect one, but I think it's a lot more calibrated to trying to do both. It's whenever I observe myself that I have some fear of making some business decision that I know that will make somebody upset, I call him and I try to use to talk through it with him to understand if it's something that's holding me back to making the right business decision. But it's always hard. It's always hard.
You also mentioned that, when you are working as a woman and you have kids, you get criticized for working and not being with your kids. But I also feel like, and I had some conversations like that with my wife, if you are a mother, let's say, and you are actually stay at home, then you also get criticized for like, wait, you're only a mother? Like you don't work, you don't have a career, you don't do anything, you just stay at home all day?
Yeah, you don't win.
Yes. Yeah.
You never win.
Yeah. I made a post. It's so much easier to be a good dad than a good mom, because it's like, especially because maybe my wife's parents are like Eastern European, so they're a little bit more traditional. but like I change one diaper and I get compliments, you know?
My parents would definitely compliment you for that as well.
Yeah, like feed the baby once and like, wow, such an engaged father feeds the baby once. Alina, oh, we got some comments here on the live here. We got Victor said, very great chat in all caps. Thank you, Victor. Joe said, super stoked to have caught the end of this. Is this call recorded? Would love to watch the rest. Yes, it is recorded and will go out probably next week on our podcast and YouTube. And then Benjamin says, I became aware of Chili Piper from a web dev on my team. So kudos for the effective and accessible technical documentation without gatekeeping it behind a demo. It was easier to see its objective merits versus our clients' existing solutions. There you go. Some props from people. I guess no questions, but some love. Alina, I'll let you go here. I know we meandered a little bit across different topics, but I felt like just talking about LinkedIn and social media with you would be a waste. And so I really enjoyed the conversation about, work and life and what it's like being a woman and kids and all that stuff. And so thank you so much for taking the time. And
I can't let you go without asking a question also.
okay,
You are learning a lot about LinkedIn and social media. Is there anything that you observe in my posting or in my comments that you think I can get better at? Is there anything that you think that would be approached differently?
I think the only thing, and again, that I don't think it fits your nature, is what I really see as well as like complete end-to-end kind of playbooks, frameworks, right? And those are the type, because you post a lot kind of stream of consciousness, those are the things where you maybe need to, like documenting, like how did you scale Chili Piper from 0 to 10 million? What are all the steps that you took? What are all the channels you leveraged? What are the key hires that you made and at what point? Or from 0 to 45 million, and like just documenting and packing that into one massive value packed LinkedIn post. I think those posts like have the potential to go viral because there's so much value in them, but it's a different style, like you really need to sit down and like probably work for 2 hours on that post and think back and what are all the things and blah. So like, that's the only thing. So yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good feedback, Finn.
But you need to see if it fits your style, because if you're winning because you're authentic. So, but yeah, that's the only thing I would.
That's very good feedback. I enjoyed chatting with you, Finn. I hope you get back to your little one and give all the cuddles.
I will now. It's time to put her to sleep. So I'm going to feed her and then we'll go to sleep. All right. Thank you, Alina. Have a good day. And it was great having you.
I'll see you on LinkedIn. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.